The movie starts with a girl named Marcella returning home from school. She goes to her room to put away her favorite doll, the friendly Raggedy Ann. Marcella leaves and suddenly the toys come to life. Ann then sings to the rest of the toys about how wonderful the outside world is and all the different things she sees while with Marcella. After the song, Ann shares that it is Marcella's 7th birthday, and the toys point to a large wrapped present. Ann notices a pair of feet trapped under the package. They belong to Raggedy Andy, Ann's brother. Once freed, Andy begins to sing a song about being sick and tired surrounded by girly products and feminine activities, all while referring to himself as a tough and terrific boy. As Marcella makes her way back to the room, the toys return to inanimate objects. Marcella returns to her room and opens the present. It is revealed to be a beautiful doll from Paris named Babette. Marcella is called again by her mother to blow out her candles, and she leaves the room. The toys return to life and welcome Babette to the nursery, delighted to meet her. But Babette is homesick and does not care to live in the nursery. Meanwhile, the pirate Captain Contagious, trapped in a snow globe, notices Babette and is immediately in love. Contagious tricks Ann into freeing him and kidnaps Babette. The captain, along with his crew, breaks out of the nursery through the window. Feeling responsible for Babette's kidnapping, Raggedy Ann, along with Andy, head off to rescue her before Marcella returns. Ann and Andy leave the nursery and enter the deep, deep woods. Ann and Andy, initially nervous to head into the unknown, sing a song that reaffirms their sibling bond, making both feel better about exploring the deep, deep woods. While exploring, they eventually discover an old blue camel stuffed animal. The camel laments how he's been abandoned and hallucinates fellow camels beckoning him to come home. Ann and Andy tell the camel that they will be his friends. This cheers the camel up and he allows them to ride on his back. Suddenly, the camel begins hallucinating again. He chases an imaginary caravan, not realizing he's headed off a cliff. Ann tries to warn the camel, but it's too late. The trio falls off the cliff and finds themselves in a pit made of taffy. There they meet the Greedy, a gluttonous monster made of taffy, who constantly gorges himself with all manner of sweets and treats, never being satisfied. The Greedy explains he needs a sweetheart to finally feel full, and discovers there is candy heart sewn inside of Ann. He attempts to take it by force, but the toys successfully escape from his domain. After narrowly escaping the Greedy, the three characters take a brief rest. Ann thanks the camel for his help and promises after they rescue Babette, he can come live with them. However, they are interrupted by Sir Leonard Looney, a purple knight, who kidnaps the trio, taking them to a strange world, full of chaos and randomness. Eventually, they end up in Looneyland, where they meet King Cuckoo, a tiny king who despises his small stature, as well as the insane citizens he rules over. The tiny king explains part of him expands every time he laughs. Therefore, Sir Looney begins playing practical jokes on the trio, but mostly Andy. The king begins laughing and expanding due to the pranks by Sir Leonard. Eventually, Ann and Andy have enough and retaliate by throwing pies at Sir Leonard and the king. Eventually, everyone in Looneyland begins throwing pies at each other. While everyone is distracted, the toys escape unnoticed into a crazy-looking ship. The king realizes the trio has escaped, but plans to use them to accomplish what he calls his last laugh. He calls a giant sea creature named Gazooks to capture the Raggedy Dolls and Camel. Meanwhile, the trio, using a telescope aboard the strange ship, spot the captain's pirate ship. They manage to land abroad on the ship only to discover Babette is no longer in need of rescue. Babette has become the new captain and plans to return to Paris while imprisoning Captain Contagious. When Ann tries to convince Babette to return to Marcella, Babette becomes enraged and ties the trio to the mast until they reach Paris. Contagious is freed by his parrot Queasy and manages to free the Raggedies and the camel. Just then, King Cuckoo arrives with Gazooks, capturing everyone except Ann, Babette, and the parrot Queasy. Babette feels guilty after seeing the trouble she caused and begs for forgiveness. Before Ann can respond, Gazooks captures the rest of the dolls and begins tickling them, causing the king to expand bigger and bigger. The king celebrates his gigantic size until Queasy the parrot flies into the king. Using his beak as a pin, Queasy causes King Cuckoo to explode. The massive explosion sends everyone spiraling into a black void. The next day, Marcella discovers the toys lying on top of fall leaves in her backyard, revealing the entire adventure took place in only a couple of feet away from the house. Marcella brings her toys back in, all except the camel, who is buried under a pile of leaves. The end. Just kidding. Later that night, Babette apologizes to Raggedy Ann for all the trouble she's caused. Raggedy Ann forgives Babette and compliments her courage. Surprisingly, Babette begins a relationship with Captain Contagious. I guess kidnapping was considered romantic back in the day. Raggedy Ann is happy to return home with all her friends when suddenly the camel makes his way to the window. Raggedy Ann and her friend welcome him to their family. The next morning, Marcella arrives at the nursery to find the camel. The movie closes with Marcella embracing her new stuffed animal, as well as her favorite dolls, Raggedy Ann and Andy. This is where the movie ends. Have a nice day, and thanks for watching.